the purpose is to talk about your purpose, but to do that by hearing a bit about your kind of origin story, some obstacles that you've overcome, some skill sets or specialities that you've developed over time, and how that feeds into what you're doing for your clients. Just by listening, I'll be making a few notes, and then I'm going to feed back what I'm hearing, and then give you a metaphor for who you're being whilst you're doing this brilliant work, and then an impact I can see you having. And I hope that this adds a layer that you can't add by yourself.
My business is about helping people improve their relationship with food. So with a lot of the messaging that we receive in this society about food and bodies, tend to lose their way with trusting their own bodies to tell them what to eat, when to eat, how much to eat, because we get all these messages around don't eat this is bad, count calories, watch your portion sizes. So really I help people get back to a place of being more intuitive with the way that they eat, which is a bit more natural and sustainable. And I'm a registered dietitian, so I've been practicing for over 10 years now, and then I've specialised in this area for the last 5-6 years, and started my own business to help focus on this particular area, but help people mainly break out of a difficult relationship with food.
And so what's the driver? What were you stepping on from? What drove you to enter this realm of helping people?
So if I think there was an immediate driver, but then there was like a long-term driver. So the long-term driver was when I was probably 11, 12 years old, and my body started to change, as it does when you hit puberty. I started to feel like my body wasn't enough, wasn't good enough. My body had changed, I'd gained some weight, and there were a few comments flying around from different people about that change. And it made me then think, oh, well, I need to make myself smaller. And so it started then, and I tried to do various different things at the time, pick up different magazines and try to change my own diet in order to make myself smaller. And that continued really for a number of years, and it went in and out of different levels of extremeness. So I would say my relationship with food from the age of 12 for about 10 years was quite disordered, and probably teetered on the edge of an eating disorder at different times, when it kind of got worse and then it got better. And so I didn't think I was doing anything silly. I was kind of doing the things that we're told we should do. And so I had an interest in food and cooking naturally, I think, because I was probably depriving myself of food. So I'd always sit and watch cooking programs, and also I do enjoy cooking, and I did enjoy cooking. I'm quite creative. But I think it was exacerbated, when our bodies are underfed, we think about food, our brain makes us think about food and seek it out. So watched loads of cooking programs, thought I wanted to be a chef, had an interest in nutrition, and then when it looked at going down different degree pathways, I wanted to do a nutrition degree, and found the degree that I do now, which is nutrition and dietetics. My mum was a nurse. I had an interest in food, and it felt like it was marrying the two professions in some way. You work in a hospital, and so really enjoyed my degree. And to be honest, I fluctuated in and out of my relationship with food being problematic. So I remember in my degree, it wasn't always bad, my relationship with food, but I remember always just being quite restrictive, and making sure I had a salad for lunch and cut out sugar, and just would be careful and mindful of calories and things like that. And I think the degree, I thought, would not only help me learn more about food, but also then help other people to be healthier. And then I soon learned on that degree that nutrition's really complex, and I went and worked in the NHS for my first job, and we do our placements in the NHS. So with dietetics, it's a bit like physio or occupational therapy, where you're very much trained to go and work as a healthcare professional. So yeah, really enjoyed the degree, started my career in the NHS, and really just worked with quite sick people in hospitals that were malnourished and needed to eat more food and have different interventions to help them eat. And I specialised as a kidney dietitian as well for a period of time, and saw a really diverse range of people. And I was working in Newham, which is one of the most diverse boroughs in the country, so in East London. Really enjoyed that. There were definitely some things that, you know, I never felt in the NHS, I never felt like I was, you know, the more work you put in, you don't necessarily get, sometimes you can't get what you want to do through the systems. If you want to create something, it has to go through 10 people to then create change, and it's almost like, well, what's the point? Yeah. So I found that frustrating. But yeah, I was uninspired in some ways, although it was a really great learning environment. So I ended up going back to uni, did a master's in clinical research, and came out of that degree. Could have gone back into my NHS job, but I just didn't feel excited by that. So I then went and worked in a private weight loss clinic in Chelsea in West London. So made quite a shift, but I thought, oh, this is a really exciting way to get myself into private practice. And I knew in the back of my mind someday I wanted to start my own business, but didn't think it would happen so soon. And after a few months of being there, I didn't feel like it really aligned with me. And you know, we're given these people very expensive, fancy, tailored meal plans, and you know, I was just sort of seeing the same patterns that I'd experienced myself through trying to constantly lose weight and change my body. And that's when I came across a whole new body of research, which is the work that I now do. And I came across that when I was looking into sort of weight maintenance, and this clinic, they kind of had as part of their tagline, you know, like, this is sustainable weight loss and people maintain it forever and stuff like that. And so with my research background coming into this clinic, I was like, oh, okay, well, where are the stats? Let's have a look. I really want to keep monitoring this. And they didn't have any of the stats. They would only see that people would lose weight for that kind of 3-month, 6-month program that they did. And then off they went, and we knew people would keep coming back or would struggle. And so I said, well, let's get all the data that we have over the last 5 years and go back and contact those people and see where you're at. Because my research hat is like, well, you can't make those claims until you've got the data. And they said, they basically refused to allow me to spend my time doing that. And so I continued to learn about the challenges around dieting and the harms that it can create for people, and came across this whole new world that I've found now, which are non-diet approaches, which are really taking the focus away from weight loss and onto helping people improve their relationship with food and find healthy behaviours regardless of size. And when I came across this work, it was a lot of it's coming out of Australia, America, Canada, and I kind of learned about it, ran away from it for about 6 months because I thought, this is really conflicting everything I've ever known and learned. And then I couldn't run away from it anymore because it just was like too aligned with me, my experiences personally, professionally, and then also because of all the research that was out there. It just, it was calling my research side as well. So I decided I just needed to get out of that place. And thankfully, where we were at the time, that at the clinic, we had like an NLP coach, a neuro-linguistic programming coach, who taught us how to implement those sort of coaching strategies with our clients, but we also got some sessions with her ourselves as well. And so in those sessions, I used them to sort of help figure out my escape route from this clinic, and stay there because I needed the money, but also figure out then what I was going to do next. And she made me realize that I was making a choice to stay at this clinic and show up every day, and I didn't have to. I could leave today if I wanted to, or that day if I wanted to. And yeah, so from there I basically grafted in the background, starting my own business. And at the time it was not on any approach, it was more about kind of just helping people with nutrition in general, and just offering one-to-one support. And then after time it kind of molded into really specializing in disordered eating and helping people with their relationship with food. And I sort of went through quite a lot of training in that time as well, and supervision and support to gear me up to be able to support the people that I wanted to work with. So I guess the long-term driver was my own difficulty with my relationship with food growing up, which at the time I didn't realize was really that problematic, until I look back. And then that being in that weight loss clinic really accelerated me to just do something that I felt more passionate about.
Right. Wow. Okay. So there's a lot there to unpack.
Yeah.
Before I do, I'm going to turn the lights on up there just so that I might be in less shadow. Let's see if that works at all. Oh, okay. So I once said that the disruption is the breeding ground of creativity. And I see that you said about the comments you had when you were about 11 or 12. It sounded like, blissfully, unaware, going about life, and then someone said a comment from their perspective, saying what they see, or sharing their belief system.
Yeah.
And I'm guessing this is about your appearance. Is that what they're commenting on?
Yeah. My body size.
Yeah. So they share that, and it sounds like, I was going to say a really rude awakening, as in what gives everyone the right to do that. Mm-hmm. But also you're on a path, like you talk about intuitive eating, and I suppose we have a gut instinct, no pun intended, but intuitive eating, we can trust ourselves. And you were in that process, and someone has come along and disrupted that. And then it sent you on this journey.
Yeah.
And I wonder if you would be where you are today without that comment or comments.
Well, yeah, there were a few comments, but I think it was then probably, I don't know if the right word's exacerbated or confirmed by seeing, in the media. We didn't have social media back then, but the way friends talked about their bodies, and like magazines, that's all I can think of back then, like Ms. Magazine, seeing women like looking really fit and thin, and having these bodies to aspire to, as well as the comments. I think it was probably a combination of a few things, but certainly I can remember some clear comments that made me go, oh yeah, and then affected my eating behaviors and kept me in that diet cycle, basically, of restricting and then feeling completely out of control, and then restricting and then feeling completely out of control for years.
So then you're trying to change or affect something, and it sounds, the way you described it, you probably experienced a lot of resistance in what, or it was difficult, to try and change that, to try and investigate new ways of eating to achieve whatever this comment led you to maybe aspire to. And I think when things are difficult, we can try and we can try again. When there's a resistance, it's like, oh, there's a resistance, so I must try harder, or I must try something else. Yeah. And you're clearly tenacious, because you started your own company. Well, not only started it, it looks like it's thriving. You've now got a team behind you of, I think, is it 4 or 5 other people I
There
believe.
is
3, 4,
me,
2.
Sarah, Lucy, Holly, Ruby, 5.
Yeah, 5. Yeah. uh, yeah. So there is that tenacity to stay at that coalface, and then you had another disruptive point, which was working at a weight loss clinic, which, I mean, how do you look back on that now? How do you see?
I look back at that clinic with anger, or like how ridiculous that there are companies out there like that. And I also, I did for a while felt quite like I get like guilty because I worked there and I put people on diets, and I very much believed in that. But then I also have a lot of compassion for where I was at and why I was there, and I'm now I'm really grateful that I've been open and flexible to change the approach that I take based on new knowledge and what I feel is ethical and aligned with my values.
So that sounds scientific. Scientists like to be proved wrong, because it helps them find what is the closest thing to the truth that we can get our hands on. So, okay, you worked at a weight loss clinic, but it sounds like you learned so much and refined your journey. So if your journey was, let's say, I always like purpose. With purpose, I say purpose is like having your North Star in the sky, and the weight loss clinic, if purpose is straight ahead, maybe that was pointing over there, but you went and found things out whilst you were there, some valuable information, which then got you pointing in a slightly new direction. So it was a valuable experience by the sounds of it.
Yeah, it was a valuable experience, and if I hadn't have done that, then I probably wouldn't be here doing, I don't know what I'd be doing, but maybe I wouldn't be doing this business. And but it did take me closer to it's definitely made me feel a lot more aligned with the work that I'm doing, and it's almost like the passion, I describe it as like running through my core. It's like I'm so passionate about this work and this message, and that's what's kind of kept me going through the difficulties of building a business, I guess.
Yes, because there's lots of things at building businesses where lots of backroom stuff which isn't, you're not face to face with clients, you're doing admin, you're whatever it might be, but if you know that supports your core purpose, then it's easier to, makes that stuff easier to do, or gives you a very good reason why to carry on.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
So you said about you mentioned, I think, who you want to work with. Who do you want to work with? What are you looking for in a client?
So the clients I want to work with are those that feel ready to embrace something different, and they are sort of have that flexible, open growth mindset of seeing that there is another possibility. Not all clients have that, but I think those that do have it's nice to work with those that are kind of like almost at your mercy in a way of like, I'm ready to do something different, and I can't keep doing what I'm doing, and they want to put the work in to get that change. And they're typically people that have been on and off of a number of different weight loss attempts over the years, and they feel they don't not be able to have certain foods around without feeling like they've got to demolish it all and feel guilty about that. And food just has more of a place in their life than they want it to. So they might describe themselves as a binge eater. They might say, I always overeat, I need more control, I lack willpower. And through working together, I almost describe myself like a nutrition counselor than a dietitian. I'm not a therapist, but I have been trained in some techniques to help support with this work. And it's very much an exploratory journey that we go through together. And I very much see the individual is the expert of their own body, and I'm there to help support and guide them to re-figure out how to find a more trusting and sustainable way of eating that feels more freeing and peaceful.
Okay, so you bring them freedom and peace. Okay.
Yeah, like inner peace, food freedom is one of the key things that a lot of clients really want from working with me.
So, okay, a few things. So I'm interested to know about the sort of the kind of overlap into therapy a little bit. I think that's very interesting. I'm always like to hear about skills which are lying at slight peripheries of what we're doing, because it shows that we're stretching ourselves and we're catering for the needs of our clients. Also, you mentioned about, oh, sorry, you froze there a little bit, actually, Kat. I'm not sure. Did you hear all that?
Yeah, I think the signals. The signal just keeps sort of going in and out a little bit.
Okay. I'll repeat that just for the sake of the recording. So you mentioned about therapy. So you describe yourself as a nutrition counselor, but you have learned some therapy techniques. And through my own experience of being a coach, I know that coaching overlaps a bit with therapy. And I've explored my own journey about the overlap with working with NHS patients, actually, like a bit like yourself. So what kind of therapy techniques did you learn which you found really helpful?
So one of the things that I've done some additional training in is acceptance and commitment therapy.
Okay.
Acceptance and commitment therapy, motivational interviewing, which is, both of them are about behavior change, and I'll always stay within the remit of using those skills in the remit of food and relationship with food, of course, because acceptance and commitment therapy can be used in lots of different areas, and if someone started talking about their marriage, or I know that's not my remit, so I've had training in acceptance and commitment therapy and delivering that as part of your skill set as a dietitian, and that's about really it really helps with people that are struggling with their body image. So it's about kind of accepting where you're at and but also taking committed action towards change. So it's especially when people are trying to give up diets and recognize that actually the biggest predictor of weight gain is dieting, and actually it's very difficult to pick a number that we say we want to put our body at and then get there, and so a lot of the work involved can be around learning to respect the body that you have and accept the body that you're in some way, and so it really does help with this work, because it's like, I don't like my body, but I'm here and I want to still continue to do things that bring me joy in my body. So I will go to that, swim class with my daughter, even though I don't want to be in a swimsuit. I'm still, I'm here. And if I don't do this now and I wait until I am a size whatever, that size might never come, or, that's the size you've been trying to be for 20 years. Or so it's recognizing like, it's helping that person and that individual live their life now, rather than kind of waiting until, and if their body changes in time, great, fine, that may or may not happen, but it's not holding back from things that bring you joy and that matter to you, based on something that's not as controllable as we're led to believe. Yeah,
and we are led to believe a lot of things. You mentioned magazines, prior to social media. I've always been impressed by people who can do things, with their physicality. So someone who can run fast, or, do a handspring, or, climb up a rock. I think personally, I think it's a very attractive quality as someone who's physically able. That's just me personally. Form follows function in my mind, in that having that view. And I think it's beautiful to see somebody embrace their physicality and own it, so they've got autonomy and they're doing something great. And a byproduct of that is this thing, that the appearance. And I feel lucky to have that outlook. But I can just, what you described so far is what a challenge to try and reverse the opposite. So to have someone be chasing what they're trying to look like and not have access, or not allow themselves to access the physicality, what they could be doing. Because I know from my background in sport how amazing and also how awful it feels to be active sometimes. You get injured, fine, but how amazing it feels to be capable and to do things. Like, I know that you've got a good interest in cycling, for example, like
cycling, running, but I work with people that sometimes live in much larger bodies than I'm in, and I do live in a small body, and I have privileges there where my genetics have put me here, really, and I that's just where my body's landed when I've eaten in a way that's in line with my hunger and fullness and stuff like that. And so there are people that live in bodies that are bigger naturally, and society, especially when it comes to sport, doesn't necessarily have the equipment and enable that. So if you go into any gym store, there'll be clothes that fit people up to a size 60 maybe, and not far beyond that. So that there's limitations to enable people to get involved in activity and movement, and then there's the shame that can come with that of being in an environment where there's lots of kind of thin and fit people. And so I work with people that are all different shapes and sizes, but those that are in larger bodies do unfortunately face more like weight-based discrimination, and so and that can start from a very young age, where at school might not want to participate in sports because their body's different to other people, and then it kind of carries on from there. But I've worked with some women that have always loved swimming and then avoided that for so many years because of being afraid to walk into a swimming pool in the body that they have. And I've actually then found the love for like wild swimming and gone through this journey of like, well, I want to do the thing that I know brings me joy, and that did bring me joy when I was younger, that I've now avoided for so many years because of what I think other people will think of me and maybe what other people have said about me. So it's really like rewarding work to see people come out the other side and like really start living their life. And then with that comes so much positivity in everything, in their relationships, in their energy levels, and just outlook, really. It just feeds into lots of other areas.
I'm a big fan of the power of a simple nucleus, or maybe in this case it sounds like it's quite complex. It can be, but focusing on on ourselves and whichever kind of focus that we need or we're craving, and then that radiating out. So you help people live their life, find the love of what they're doing, positivity. So I've got an image of you kind of breaking down the myths, or like, imagine someone walking through life just being bombarded with all kinds of messages, whether it's a magazine or social media, and you're there a bit like a guide who I've almost got like a picture of you with a shirt saying, "I've done the research," I've got the credentials, and I can help you navigate this melee of just being bombarded by stuff that can tell you stuff that can be really damaging.
I think the credentials helps in that it helps that credibility, and yes, I've got the degrees and things like that. And then there's sort of what I don't like is that kind of I'm the expert and I'm going to tell you what you can and can't do sort of thing. I'm very much exploring a bit like I'm sure you do, you know, you're exploring and getting curious about things and questioning and really learning to understand that individual, where things have come from and what that's led to, and helping to disentangle themselves from misinformation. So sometimes it is educational, with, you know, with permission, I can educate if that's what someone wants. And I also think there's a lot of value from other people in my industry that haven't necessarily gone and got degrees, but have a lot of lived experience of perhaps living in larger bodies, or, you know, living in a body that's not mine. And so I often share resources and recommend other people that they can learn from in reading and podcasts and things like that, so that they kind of get in more information from people that they can relate to as well.
So yeah, lovely. I love that. So you're handing it. I heard this phrase yesterday. You're handing a person to a person.
I wouldn't say hand them, but like, for someone to be talking about, you know, if someone's living in a much larger body than mine, and I'm sort of talking about experiences of getting onto airplanes and the difficulties of having to ask for a seatbelt extender, or you know, going into an environment where they feel uncomfortable. Like, it's not my place to talk about that, because I've never experienced that. But what I do share is resources from other people that have experienced that can help them feel like they're not alone, and actually it's not you that's a problem. There's issues with lots of things that is not your fault, but here's some other things that can help you. And so that's kind of part of what I do, is not just put my hand up and say I'm the only one in the world that knows everything, but all these other things that can help you. And I think that helps the individual just feel a lot less alone and more supported, and, you know, seeing that that there are wider issues and it's not just me talking about it. Because finding community, I think, is really important for people.
Yeah, I love that. So, well, you know your limitations then. If you see, that's what I mean. You, in terms of passing somebody to somebody else, you might not, you know, just pass them away, but there is something else to go and investigate. And you know, it sounds like you're saying, I haven't got all the answers, but this person has. So you're helping them grab bits and bobs of a jigsaw. You know,
yeah, or like, I don't have lived experience, but this person does, and they have some really interesting stuff to share. Because there's not a research paper that talks about this, but there are other people that are talking about this. So I do, like, I guess it kind of skirts around the edges of my work. Is as part of it, I'll share resources and make recommendations and share different links for an Instagram post or an article or a podcast episode that I think they might find valuable and stuff like that.
So you've definitely got a respect for making information accessible to people, and there's a certain level of impartiality as well. Okay, all right, okay. So I don't. Often in interviews, people want to get like the silver bullet, like what is the one thing everyone can do, but what things would you love everyone to know, based on your work? What would be some kind of great learning points you've had in your career that you quite often pass on in different conversations?
I think when it comes to food, really focusing on what you can add into your diet rather than take away. So if you're looking to make change and you want to be a little bit more, include more nutritious foods in your diet, then I would say, well, what can you add? Where is there room to add some more fiber, some more fruits and vegetables, some nuts and seeds? Where can you add? From a movement perspective, and also food as well, like, if this didn't change your body, asking the question, if this didn't change your body or burn calories in any way, would you still do it? And if so, would you do it any differently? So maybe you're really craving a sandwich for lunch, or like, I don't know, a hot panini or something like that. Or and in your head you think, oh, I should really have the salad. It's like, well, okay, well, if you eat something that doesn't really satisfy you, then it's likely that you're going to feel deprived and then want to eat more later anyway. And but also from a movement perspective, if you're telling yourself you should go for that run just because it's going to burn some calories, and it might change your body, it just tends to be really an unsustainable approach. Whereas if you're like, you know what, I want to move, if it didn't burn calories or change my body in any way, would I still do it? Yeah, I would, but I'd probably just go for a walk instead, or I'd go for a bike ride, or I would, I'd do something higher intensity or lower intensity or shorter or longer or whatever. And I just think when you lean into doing things that bring you joy, it's just a lot more sustainable. And I wish that's what I was taught when I was younger, was like deprivation with food fuels overeating, and also trying to burn and go to all these classes at the gym and berate myself for like eating something that I think I shouldn't have done, and then trying to go to the gym to burn it off. It's just a vicious cycle. And I wish I'd been told to like, I don't know, go play more netball or go and play more badminton, or all the things that I enjoyed, the benefits of movement, but just in a different way.
I completely love everything you just said. It's the oh yeah, that what can you add in? It's great. And then if this didn't change your body, would you do it anyway? I'm a big fan of.
This wasn't about calories, weight loss, that kind of stuff. Yeah, would you still do it? If not, would you do it differently?
Yeah, like how can you fall in love with this process? Are you doing it because of a goal, or are you doing it? So reading Johnny Wilkinson's book. I've just given it to a friend's son, actually, who's almost completed it. And one thing that stood out was when they won the World Cup, England won the World Cup in 2003. It didn't deliver what he hoped. And I've heard that so many times from different people in sport, that the moment of attaining that thing didn't deliver. And also people who didn't attain a medal, let's say who came third and didn't get a gold, what I hope for them is that they have fallen in love with that process and have loved that Olympic cycle, or because there's a risk that you won't get that thing. So why are you doing it? And when I'm in the gym, I was in the gym this morning with my friend and working out, and we were having a right old laugh and we loved it. And I'm not sure I would see that across the floor, people loving the process.
And there's times where it depends, because like I actually recently ran an ultra marathon.
Wow.
Last year in October, and intuitively, it's not something that your body's like, oh, I want to go and run an ultra, but there was something in me that wanted to achieve something that I didn't think I was capable of. And there were certainly times where I was like, I can't go for that run. And it was difficult because it kind of hit that, like, yes, it wasn't about calories and stuff like that, but it was a little bit of like, oh, well, it is to try and, I've got to go out in this really baking hot weather today and go and run a marathon on my own as training. Like, that's not always fun, but I knew the benefit of doing that would outweigh, the long-term goal, which was to complete this ultra. And also, you say that the gold medal situation. Well, I don't know if I told you this before, but my boyfriend Stu, he's an Olympic gold medalist. So he got his medal last year in it was the year before last, actually, 2021. Tokyo. And I think there's different, being in that world, there's different groups of people that are kind of hard graft, don't really love the process that much all the time. Whereas Stu, he also didn't love the process very much, but he absolutely loves his work and his sailing. And there were up and down days, lots of down days and lots of up days, but it's kind of, I don't know what I'm trying to say, but I do hear what you're saying about enjoying being on that gym floor, but then also having to go through the grind sometimes to achieve something quite extraordinary. And I don't know how to, I don't know how best to describe that balance, if you know what I mean. It's a bit like running a business, and you love what you do, but you still have low days.
What's the message here for your clients then?
I don't know. That's what I'm trying to figure out. What's my message is like, I think there needs to be an underlying the desire to want to do the thing that you're doing. There needs to be an underlying desire for that aligns with your values and what you believe in, and what you truly want. And then to recognize within that there's still going to be some ups and downs, and that's okay. But it's only going to be sustainable if the bottom line of working towards that goal is kind of truly what you want, not what you think you should be doing.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So the the grind. There are going to be tough days. They're not all going to be. A friend, who is it? A client of mine was describing type 2 and type 1 fun.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So type 1 fun is playing on the, on his whatever it is, a games console, eating all the chocolate at Christmas. Type 1 fun, which kind of comes at a cost that, on reflection, you might not like. But type 2 fun, it can be quite arduous, like cycling up the hill at Creech, or flogging yourself, like being in pain. But the type 2 is more likely to be the thing he will talk about fondly.
Yes.
So I'm lumping the grind maybe with type 2.
Type 2, for sure.
And I love talking about values. I think values are the stepping stones that, when you have your values, they line up and point towards your purpose, which is how you move through life when you're at your best, at your peak. So I kind of lost my train of thought, but
yes, we were talking about, well, how does that what's the message to my clients, and then this longer term goal, as long as it's sort of aligned with something that matters to you, your values, then it's more likely to be, the type 2 fun's more likely to be sustained and actually enjoyable. I think.
Because I said, who do you want to work with? You said people who are ready to embrace that kind of journey, embrace the difference, a growth mindset. I've written down trusting of you.
Yeah.
Well, and I think the research that you've got, I see emblazoned across you. I think you do a lot to earn the trust as well. Whether you're working with them directly or it's just what you're doing anyway, you're going and researching, you're learning, you're adjusting what you know with time. You said the non-diet approaches that you see in Australia, Canada, and the US as well, that's going to change what you believe to be so. So I think you haven't got a conditional grip on what you know. And the condition is, have I gone out and sought the best information, and can I be confident right now that I can pass this on and do good for people? And it sounds like if there's more evidence to read, you'll go and read that rather than just hold on to this thing and say, this is it, and that's all I'm going to do. There's a scientific approach there.
Yeah, I see that as part of my professional, like being professional, is to continue professional development. So continue training, continued supervision, which is what I do. I'd like to do more of it than I do, because is limited time in a week. But even on the way into work this morning, I was listening to a webinar updating my knowledge on things. So I'm starting another course in January. I was in contact with university yesterday to see how I can get involved in lecturing and supervising projects. And
very good.
So but I'm just like, there's too much that I can't do everything all at once, even though I want to deliver on all these things. So I just have to have some things going on in the background. And I know the research stuff at the universities isn't going to come around straight away, but it might be more in like 2024. But it's, you have to have these conversations now for things to start to manifest.
Yes, yeah, we might be able to pick them up fully right now and run with them, but we are laying the foundations for things later on. So, I mean, you can't do everything. So you've got your team. I'm looking at the website now. You've got Sarah Curry, who's a specialist dietitian in eating disorders and IBS. Polly Neve, registered dietitian, intuitive eating associate, and Lucy Fowler, integrative psychotherapist, and Ruby Polido, who's your copywriter and content support. So yes, you can't do everything, but you've amassed this team.
Yeah.
What's that been like to build a team behind you?
Well, it's kind of happened gradually, really. It started probably 2-3 years ago, when Ruby reached out actually to me and said, can I help with your copy, basically, and emails and things like that, and did some work for me for free initially. She was, I just want to, she was basically offering me her time to try and, I guess, make a sale. And actually we got on really well, and she's brilliant. She's based in the Philippines, and she's just really autonomous in her working, and just really gets it. So and same with Polly. So Polly's doesn't see clients, but she does content. I do oversee everything, but she's really great. So she'll write articles and do social media and things like that. So they both have like a set number of hours a month and deliver whatever it is that I've kind of suggested. But there's lots of scope within that for them to maintain their creativity as well. So that's great. And then Lucy she's a psychotherapist. I recognised that with some of my clients, they needed more support, and their ability to move forward without my work with them was getting sort of stumped by other things that come up that needed therapy. So I was on the lookout for ages, and Lucy started referring clients to me, and I realised the clients that she was sending my way were just really well, kind of had a great skill set, and just were really equipped with just really equipped to kind of start doing the work with me. And I was like, wow. And so I've been working with my mentor over the last 4 years, and part of my bigger picture plan was to be able to not fully step back, but be able to have a business that's not just me and my one-to-one time, that can kind of run without me as well. So I guess I've kind of gradually built up this team, and it's been a lot easier than I think. If I'd have looked back 3 or 4 years ago, I'd have gone, well, that looks really scary, but actually it's been a lot easier than I thought, because it's just been a gradual process. And I found some really great people that I can really trust and rely on, and really experienced as well, especially Lucy and Sarah, both really experienced clinicians. Polly is as well, but she's not seeing the one-to-one client, so just slightly different.
So this you could I'm hearing then that, again, you could do lots of things, but you're having this team is helping you walk a more defined line. Maybe you've chosen some limits, some limitations, to then pass it over the baton to somebody else. If it's been easy, maybe it's because of the energy that you're putting out there, because I'm a firm believer that attracts, what you put out attracts something similar coming back to you. So maybe that's something that we can all learn from. And
also I really thought about what my gaps were, like what didn't I enjoy doing, what did I struggle with, and where were the gaps in my expertise. And the gaps in my expertise were, I'm not a therapist. Sarah's got 20 years in eating disorders and specialist gastro, so gut related issues, which I don't have. And then Polly's with the content, I just don't have the capacity and time, and don't always love. I don't have the time for it, basically. Writing lots of articles and things like that. As much as I love parts of doing that, I just don't have the time. So yeah, I kind of looked at where were the gaps and then filled them. So rather than, yeah, that took me quite a little, like a while to figure out over time, was like, what don't I enjoy doing?
Yeah.
Where am I struggling? Where am I not flowing, basically?
All like that.
Yeah.
Okay, so conscious of the time, and so here, and I now have to attempt to give you back your purpose as far as I see it, or as far as I've heard it. So it's a combination of a metaphor that kind of sums you up when you're at your best, and we've been talking about a professional setting, but maybe this could be true of you anywhere. So the metaphor is that you are the curious creator of the curious creator or curator, that's interesting. The curious curator of disentanglement. That's what I've written. And I had an image of you like on a misty hilltop, and that kind of mist, the fog, where I just don't know which way to walk, and you could walk off into a gully and fall, but you're there to help people get disentangled from that mist, and not like lead them, like along that mountaintop, but help them find an intuitive way through that fog of misinformation. And then the impact you have, it's like you allow somebody to, when a child can lean into an adult and hug them, and like really lean in, and you can feel that. It's almost like they can lean into themselves, and because a child of a certain age is free of certain kinds of judgment and image, and it doesn't matter, unconditional love. So yeah, okay, here we are. So, curious creator of disentanglement who allows people to lean into the unconditional love of themselves.
Yeah.
That's my interpretation in the moment of what it is that you do.
Yeah, I'm writing that down. So
the curious creator of disentanglement who lets people lean in to the unconditional love of themselves.
Yeah. And I find it interesting because my sort of values are trustworthiness, freedom, and adventure.
Okay, yeah, I love it.
And so, and I've thought about these for years, and they've always stuck with me. Trustworthiness and honesty is kind of always fluctuated between those, but there's something about freedom, adventure, but also this trustworthiness. And being a curious creator of disentanglement, to me, leans into the trustworthiness, honesty of disentanglement from something that's really not true, like misinformation, and being really honest around that, but allowing them the curiosity to find that freedom. And the way that you described being on that, that misty hill, that to me, I just think adventure. But that's, I don't know, someone else might view that very differently. But allowing people to lean into the unconditional love of themselves is enabling that person to find freedom, because when they have learned into that unconditional love of themselves, they're free from that disentanglement, and it enables them to live a more freeing life. Obviously there are limitations sometimes, but a more freeing life than where they're at. So it's interesting how what you've come back with aligns with my values, but also talks about like how I perhaps help other people that aligns with my values.
That's good. It's really great. That's I love that. Freedom's one of my values. Mine's freedom, campaign, and leadership. And so the point of this is it's important that it means something to you. And I love the fact that you've immediately gone and interpreted it from your point of view. And I encourage people to look at this offering of your purpose from me and look at it from their point of view and think, okay, what do I glean from that? what are the connections between what Rob is saying and what Kat thinks, and and what how do I connect with that? And I think that's one of the outcomes I hope to have, is just allowing people to connect through this conversation about purpose, which has kind of come at the end of the conversation today. But to get to have this conversation, I needed to listen to you about your journey and what you're doing and why. So thank you very much.
Thank you. It's been interesting.
So what's the best way for people to find out more about you, to reach out, to maybe work with you? What's the best thing they can do?
So my website is nudenutritionrd.com, so NUDE. And my Instagram is also nudenutritionrd.com. So RD stands for registered dietitian, and nude nutrition is about stripping back on the nonsense and helping people find that freedom. So so Instagram and website.
Great. We'll put those details in the description below. And I wonder where you'll be in 3 to 5 years, and how big this team might become, Kat. And it would be good to have a check-in, just to see see what's new in your world, and maybe the other kind of jigsaw pieces that you pulled in, or that have been attracted by what you're doing, and to find out how life is. Yeah,
well, I've got I'm growing a baby at the moment, so that's going to be another big change.
Wow! Oh, congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, so I think in 3 to 5 years, I'm thinking, I'm going to have a toddler running around. But that's part of the bigger picture planning of making a bit more of a team to, to keep the business going and supporting people whilst I'm not always 100% available.
Yeah. Oh, well, congratulations to the two of you for that.
Thank you.
I wish you all the very best, and thank you for coming on to Shepherd Bear Coaching and talking about purpose.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, and opening up this conversation and coming back with my purpose and impact.